Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm calling this week one, kind of week one of online classes. We have 5 weeks altogether before the final week. So the rest of the semester, we're actually going to be focusing on just women in the workplace. We'll get into more maybe interesting stuff later on, but we have this idea about women spending their time in 3 different markets. So one could be the household, one can be the labor market, and the other, I call it a market, but it's really spending time in leisure. So relaxing, eating, sleeping, anything like that. And this first graph I'm going to talk about, told you I'm going to talk about the more difficult things. These graphs look a little funny, so I want to explain those with this voiceover. For the first one, we're assuming that M is our market option, labor market option, spending time working. We're assuming that equals 0. So we're only spending time in the household or leisure. And we have upward sloping line for marginal value of time in the household, and the marginal value of time in leisure. And I want to show you this x-axis because it is a little different. So I did note that in the PowerPoints, but let me explain. So for leisure, we have our normal axes. This is just going from 0 to 24, left to right. But for the household, we're going the opposite way. We're going from 24 technically here to 0 if we did left to right, or we're starting here for 24 or for 0 hours of housework. We kind of just flip the axes. What this does is a few things. So first of all, if we just had 0 to 24, and for both of these, we just have 2 downward sloping lines. Why do we have downward sloping lines again? Make sure you know that. And if we had just the regular axes, well, we couldn't necessarily say whether when these hours added together what they equaled. Here, we can ensure any point on this line, we're going to have 24 hours, and that's our constraint. Remember, time in leisure plus time in the household have to all equal 24 hours in a day. That's all we have. All right, so this axis difference is why we have marginal value of time upward sloping. So not too important, but we just have we have an upward sloping line and downward sloping line. So your book just picked a point, and this is where the hours for both equal 12. So you're spending half your time in the household and half your time, not doing much relaxing. So the marginal value of time for 12 hours of household work, this is equal to 40 here, where it hits this, the line here. And then for leisure, it only equals 25. So that says this additional hours of household work are giving you more marginal utility, the change in your total utility. So you're happier with an extra hour of housework versus an extra hour of leisure. Maybe your house is really dirty, you need to get it clean. Maybe you need to spend more time with your children, anything like that. So we want to increase our household time, and that's going downward on this line. Remember, because household work, higher amounts of time are to the left. And then for leisure, as we're doing that too, we're going to decrease the amount of leisure. So we get more household work, less leisure. And we really go until we hit the point where they intersect. That's probably where a lot of times you look because you're used to supply and demand. So that intersection says that the marginal values of both, so marginal values of leisure equals marginal value of household work. And then because of the axes, we also have that the time in each L plus H equals 24. And that's that equimarginal condition where we want these marginal values to be equal, and we also are constrained by time. All right, so let me move on to the next graph I want to show you, because now we're adding in the labor market option. So I have to wait for my tablet to load. All right, so now if we, maybe I'll do green now. We're considering that our hours in the market for labor are greater than 0 here. We still have the same graph on the right-hand or the left-hand side here that shows marginal value of time and leisure and household work. And then on the right-hand side, we have a different graph added in, and this is the marginal value of time in the labor market. And we actually have two points here, or curves, not points, that show just two different marginal values. So these two curves might be two different people, have different preferences. It could be the same person, but over time they have different preferences, which we get into later in the chapter a bit. Now, if we were to go right to the equilibrium in the left-hand graph, well, that's what we had up above, but the problem with that is, remember, we had L plus H equaled that 24 hours. Now we need to figure out how to give some time to the labor market. So again, we're still going to, because we want to add in more labor, we're going to lose some leisure hours, and we're also going to be losing some household time. So we move up and to the right for the household, and up and to the left for leisure. And you're going to go up, till you get a point where all the marginal values of time for each market or each possibility are equal. And let me start all over. And L plus H plus M equals 24. So that's 24 hours. You don't need to know the math or how to find it on a graph, but kind of know what these graphs are talking about. All right, so let's go just over to the next slide I have here. This is later on, or I don't even think I put it in your chapter, so this is a little bonus. On the other slide or other picture, we had two different marginal values of times for the labor market, and we can see, both of these pictures. Oh, I didn't press edit. Sorry about that. But obviously, the marginal value of time for the markets and the labor market, they're different, right? So we have a lower one here. It starts at a lower height, and then a higher one here. It's at a higher height. And your book kind of gives it away. This has low wage or high wage. This said this then. This is a picture for then, maybe the 1950s. And maybe this is 2020 or maybe 2019, where everything was a little bit more normal. But we know, we said this throughout the class, that women's wages in the 1950s, or even, more recently, have been lower. Their opportunities in labor market have been, were lower at this time. So what we're saying is that spending an extra hour in the labor market for these 1950s women, it didn't add a lot to, their utility, to how much they are buying and how much those goods are giving them for utility-wise. Whereas here in 2020, women can earn higher wages, have more opportunities. So their marginal value of time is higher. What's also different about the two sets of graphs is that it says for the household, we had low productivity in the 1950s and higher in 2020. Now, that might sound weird because you're thinking about like maybe 1950s housewives, but what we mean by that is how efficient are you in the household? So in the 1950s, there were a lot of things that were different. Many homes didn't have like dishwashers, say. Today, a lot of homes do. We have robotic vacuums where you don't even need to be home in order to vacuum your house. So remember, I'm going to look at the now graphs. Remember for household, we started, 0 hours further to the right, and it went down to 24. So this is just for age. That says, even if we're not spending a lot of time in a household, we're still able to be fairly productive. We have apps, we have everything else. The marginal value of time for leisure is still about the same, so you are happy spending time off for the most part. But then we have on the other side higher marginal value for the labor market, as we talked about. So these are things that shift up the curves for household work, for market work. And that's probably going to alter the decisions for women, whether they want to be in the labor market or not. Going through the chapter, you'll see that there's some instances where we talk pretty much at the end of why these are different or why one of your curves are going to be higher or lower. All right, hope this helps. Let me know if not, and I'll talk to you soon.